We looked at a couple of clips from the Republican convention earlier today, but those 3 clips we had in our video doesn't tell the whole story, so I thought to give a little more substance to it, viewing the fact check that happened afterwards and adding context to all the lies and misinformation that was being spread to at least as many as we can get in this video would be a good way to sum it up. So we'll look at it about a minute at a time and then jump in to further explain those points.
Arizona U.S. Senate candidate Kari Lake made a wildly false claim that her Democratic opponent, Ruben Gallego, voted to allow illegal immigrants to vote in this election. That's a brazen distortion of a recent House vote on voter registration requirements. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas claimed with no evidence at all that Democrats deliberately let in illegal immigrants to somehow get their votes. Non-citizens cannot legally vote, and the data shows almost never do. And I thought it was notable that some of the most significant false or misleading claims tonight came from members of the House Republican leadership. Listen to what GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik and House Speaker Mike Johnson said about violent crime.
Biden's violent crime crisis, fueled by Democrats' pro-criminal sanctuary cities and defund the police policies like we have seen in my home state of New York.
We can't survive the dramatic increases in violence, crime, and drugs that the Democrats' policies have brought upon our communities.
Well, I'll do it again. This claim that there have been dramatic increases in violence and crime under Biden is false. In fact, both violent crime and property crime have fallen under President Biden.
So the first part of what he mentioned, we did cover in our earlier video. Non-citizen voting is extremely rare. In the last 20 years, and this is from a conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, the one behind Project 2025, 2 billion votes have been cast. 85 have been cast by non-citizens. So, 0.00000, you get the message, right? What Republicans really hope to do with this is make the issue seem about non-citizen voting, pretend it's a big issue, so those who are kind of ignorant to what's actually going on will buy into it, even though it's, again, not an issue that actually happens, when in reality, the laws are just meant to disenfranchise voters, black voters especially, older voters, and the demographics that typically do not vote for Republicans and vote for Democrats instead. And as he ended, both violent crime and property crime has fallen in the last year. They've been falling since they spiked in 2020 under Trump, and now are at near 50-year lows.
Let's talk energy. They've eroded the American energy dominance that President Trump delivered. We will end the Democrats' assault on American energy once and for all.
This claim about a Biden-era Democratic assault on American energy is misleading at very best. While it's true that Biden is pushing for a transition to renewables, the U.S. under Biden is producing more crude oil than any country ever has. It is a fact the U.S. is setting fossil fuel world records under this administration. The U.S. produced a global record 12.9 million barrels of crude oil per day in 2023, easily beating the Trump-era high of about 12.3 million barrels. And Scalise also spoke of U.S. energy exports under Biden. Well, U.S. crude exports in 2023 were also the highest on record for anybody.
We're more energy independent now than we've ever been, and we're also the most energy independent country in the world. We drill more under Biden than we did under Trump. We export more oil under Biden than ever before, especially under Trump, and again, the most in the world, which are two things that I'm not even a fan of, but Republicans are, which is exactly why they have to lie about it at their convention. That way they can stop the work that Biden has done to transition us into green energy and more environmentally efficient methods to carry out this kind of energy exports and imports. That way they can continue to line the pockets of big oil, the people who make up the largest part of their donors.
We had Donald Trump Jr. suggest that Joe Biden described riots as, quote, peaceful protests. In fact, Biden explicitly condemned protest violence and looting. We had Nikki Haley describing Trump, the president, as an opponent of so-called cancel culture. The president has railed against so-called cancel culture, but he's also tried to get dozens of people, entities, companies canceled, including Goodyear just last week, and Macy's and Mexico, and a bunch of other entities in the past. A video had the president claiming that he kept every single promise he made. He certainly kept some, but not even close to all of them. Mexico hasn't paid for the wall. Obamacare isn't repealed. We haven't had 4% economic growth per year. That's just wrong. We heard a number of accusations about Joe Biden that just aren't true, that he wants to dismantle, defund the police. He's explicitly, repeatedly rejected that idea, that he wants.
Trump in the past has mentioned banning media companies that aren't favorable to him. When he was running in 2016, he wouldn't even let members of the press use their valid press passes to come and speak with him. As this man mentioned, there's a multitude of businesses and entities that that Trump has tried to blacklist. Trump is cancel culture, especially if we mention the Republicans that he's just yeeted out of the party because they wouldn't support him unconditionally and bend the knee for him. But then conservatives want to turn around and pretend it's them getting canceled by the left, but they cheer it on when it's Trump doing it. Unemployment actually hit 15% under Trump, and Biden had lower unemployment and had it for longer than Trump ever did. And he lied over 30,000 times as president. He never delivered infrastructure, never delivered Obamacare, never delivered a wall that Mexico would pay for. These are all massive failures that now Republicans are lying about themselves in order to boost his record to the less knowledgeable voters.
Quick fact check for you. Laura Trump up there saying under Donald Trump, Americans were better off across the board. According to a report from Third Way yesterday, whether it's work, wealth, or wages, Americans are better off today under Joe Biden than they were Donald Trump. She said Donald Trump will promise oil independence. Important to note that under President Biden, we are producing more oil than ever before. And the third thing she pointed out to get excited about is the pending largest corporate tax cut ever. Yes, there is a very good chance they will extend or make permanent the corporate tax cuts, maybe even lower them down to 15%. But here's the big problem. They have yet to articulate how they're going to pay for it. And if they extend those corporate tax cuts or lower them, it will balloon the deficit.
By any metric you want to look at, our economy is performing stronger under Biden than under Trump. The easy way that MAGA gets fooled and they fool people is that Trump had a higher starting point than Biden did. While Trump inherited pretty much a golden economy from Obama, there was over 250,000 jobs getting made a month. GDP was growing month over month. Wages were on the way up. Unemployment was on the way down. That's what Trump inherited. And then he shit the bed for all of that and handed it to Biden as a massive dumpster fire where GDP was negative, inflation had doubled month over month the 10 months prior to Biden coming into office, spiked before he ever passed his first bill, and jobs were lost for the first time in I think 60 years. Wages were down and wages were definitely under inflation, and now Biden has created more GDP growth than Trump did. He creates more monthly jobs than Trump did. He's created more total jobs than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. Wages are outpacing inflation. Stock market is at a record high. He cut child poverty in half with his child tax credit. These are all massive wins for Biden, but because he started at a lower starting point than Trump did, it's easy for MAGA to say, nope, we were better off under Trump, when they can't name one Trump policy that actually made it that way. And if you say the tax cuts, you're a sheep, because the average middle class family got less than $400. The average lower class family got under $200, so not even a month of rent, while the top 1% were getting $49,000 to like $68,000. And the taxes in 2025, when they wore out, for the lower and middle classes were going to be higher than they were before the tax cut. So you were going to be paying more than you would have, while the ones for the corporations and the rich were permanent.